Our lives are a string of insights, flashes of inspiration that can be the catalyst for new ideas. However, our pace of life these days means we tend to miss some of them completely. I'm Dave Hill, and I'm the host of the Simple Reflections podcast, a fortnightly series of interviews with people from all walks of life. Our conversations are an invitation to reflect on some of the simple insights my guests have had that have gone on to have a profound impact on their lives. So grab a cuppa and a biscuit, join us, slow down for a little while and see what shows up for you. Well, welcome to the next episode of the Simple Reflections podcast. Today I'm joined by Phil Hathaway, a good friend for nearly a decade now, scarily. Yeah. I'm not quite sure where that's gone.
Weird.
It is weird. Phil's a coach based in London. He's been doing a lot of things during his life. We may cover some of that. But it's through his coaching and our friendship that actually I got introduced to the principles. And I'll cover that again in a little bit.
Yes.
Phil's also written a wonderful book called Hope, A Tale of Transformation, which I thoroughly enjoyed reading. He's going to say something rude about it now, probably.
No, I didn't know that you're going to bring that one up, so it's kind of...
Sorry.
It's kind of fun. No, go for it.
It's all about surprises here. It's all about surprises. So we've known each other a long time. I worked with Phil's other half, Andrew, in a previous job when I was working for Standard Life Investments. And through our relationship there, at work, I got to know Phil. Phil got to know my family, and as did Andrew. And we just sort of kept in touch over the years. And about 7 years ago, when my marriage broke up, I had a bit of a tough time with that, but sort of got myself back on an even keel with the help of some friends and just taking some time out and giving myself some space. And Andrew got in touch out of the blue and said, "Hi, not heard from you for a while. How are things going?" I said, "Yeah, a bit rubbish, really. This is what's been going on." And he went, "Oh, yeah, that's not my cup of tea. Would you like to speak to Phil?" And that's what happened.
Yes.
So I had a lovely conversation with Phil, and he said, "You might be interested in the 3 principles. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Read this book, watch this video, tell me what you think." And from there, a whole load of stuff's happened. I've done a load of trading.
From there, an explosion.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, wow.
Well, yeah, so thank you for that introduction in the first place, and for your friendship over the years. It's meant a huge amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's kind of exciting, isn't it? Having known you for 10 years and knowing you in your previous life, to now be doing this 10 years later is one of those sort of moments, isn't it? It's like, oh wow. And I remember the spark as well. That I think the catalyst was before you think. I think that we were at Andrew's leaving do as he was leaving Edinburgh, and we were having a conversation, and I think that was the first time I'd met you.
Yeah,
I think. And as I was talking to you, I remember the feeling. Right now, I may be reverse engineering this, but I do remember the feeling and having a conversation with you and going, "Oh, there's something here. There's something in this guy." I mean, in truth, now when I look back at it, I see that I really do believe that it's all us. It's all me. I sensed something in me.
Mm-hmm.
Something was evoked within me, and out of that space came the phrase, and I remember it clearly: "You ought to be a coach." And that was probably 2 years before we eventually spoke about this.
Yeah.
But I meant that. I spotted something in you, or again, I spotted something in myself, in you. It was kind of one of those weird experiences.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about, I remember that evening quite well, and you saying that, and I didn't really pay much attention to it at the time, so I didn't really know quite what that meant.
Yeah.
But we were talking about, some of the friends that I was supporting veteran-wise, and how just trusting what felt right with whatever showed up seemed to be helpful. And knowing what I know now, I can see why that caught your attention.
Well, it's the phrase that you used when you described me, I think, earlier was cup of tea. It's Phil's cup of tea, and I could see that it was your cup of tea. Mm-hmm. The way that you were speaking, I thought, oh, you're made for this. And and it's funny when you look back at it, isn't it? And you sort of, it's just weird. It's like when I look back at when I met Andrew, which is now 18 and a quarter years ago.
Can't forget the quarter.
You can never forget the quarter. It's important. And we'd been on we'd gone to a blind date, and I remember we'd had one drink, and I needed the bathroom. And when I came out of the bathroom, it was at the opposite end of the bar, and I looked across the bar, and I caught Andrew looked up, and our eyes met, and I fell through the floor. I mean, it was just like, I think it lasted 2 seconds. It was just like, oh, I've never felt this before. Now, it's got nothing to do with Andrew. You know, in hindsight, mm-hmm. I know it's had nothing to do with Andrew. And I think even then I knew it hadn't. But it was that feeling, that sense of, I wouldn't have had words for it then, but that sense of love and no thinking, quiet, and just standing there and looking at this guy. And then, of course, as I came out of that 2-3 seconds, it's like, oh, he's the one, you know, which is ridiculous, of course. But, you know, it turned out to be the right feeling and the right call, because, you know, now we're 18 years and 1 quarter in, and I think we're both going to be 60 next year. So hopefully we've got another 40 years, you know, to continue this wonderful journey that we've had going. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So it's, but in a way, I'm mentioning that because it's similar to when I met you. If you don't get the wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, understood.
It was like this feeling when I looked at you. It was like, oh wow, I've got to tell him, because I don't go around telling everybody that they should be a coach. You know, it's a rare moment when I say that to friends.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. Well, thank you, and thank you for one, saying that, and two, for pointing me in a direction that's been really, really cool to go and explore, and I'm still loving that exploration. I know on your journey discovering this for yourself, you've spent some time working with all kinds of exciting people, one of whom being Michael Neal, doing stuff for Supercoach. I wonder if there's anything that you took from that experience that sort of landed in a deeper way than just doing your own thing, potentially.
Oh God. It will. I think it will just come across as a cheesy phrase when I put it in words, but it's to be me, to trust myself, to trust my authentic self. I remember when I went through Supercoach in 2012, and then I did it again in 2013, where Michael he says it wonderfully. He goes, this year, because he calls it, when you do it the second time, you call the advanced track, you know, which is kind of funny, really, but that's what it's called. And he says, oh no, this is where you really see what it is that I'm talking about. So this is the no really year for you lot, you know. So I was on the no really year in 2013, and then in 2014 I got this strange email. I'm going about my business. At the time I owned a gym, and I'd built my own therapy room in the gym, which had been that, you know, my therapy room had been there for about 10 years. You know, I was plodding along and minding my own business, and I'd been to Supercoach and started to transition from the NLP hypnotherapy style coaching to 3 principles, foundational coaching. And I got this email from Michael, which said, hey, would you like to come on board and be a mentor in 2014? Now, you can imagine when that email came in, you know, I just sat there and, you know, the Scooby-Doo, you know, that one, you know, I mean, did he send this to the wrong guy? And I actually didn't trust what he'd written. I could not believe that it could be me. He could be interested in me. And then going through that process in 2014 and again in 2016, to answer your question, I really got to see myself. I really got to see I got to see what I have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to see more of who I am. I got to see more of how I can connect with people in a way that I hadn't really spotted before. And it answered a lot of questions as to why I think when I look back at my life, it's been a sort of not a roller coaster ride, that's the wrong word, a magic carpet ride of different experiences that in the moment I hadn't spotted as being the magic carpet ride. But now I look back and I go, oh, geez, I've done all right, and I joined the Navy at 16 and I left after 2 years. Now I look back at that and I think, wow, that was a good decision. Of course, at the time, you're thinking, oh God, I'm from a small village and everyone's going to laugh, thinking he couldn't hack it in the armed forces. And far from the truth, I left with an exemplary certificate. I did well in the 2 years that I was in there. But it was a cool decision that I didn't know was what we now know as flow, what we now as a deeper sense within me that, you know what, this is great. My brother may already have been in the Navy for a year before me and he's traveling the world. But I know that this is not what I want to do. So I left. And then just by happenstance, I came across a computer and started to write computer programs out of nowhere. And it felt easy. There was no effort to it. So I went back to college and studied computer programming and ended up, again, another decision that in hindsight is, again, a good decision. It was flow. It was just made common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up 2 years later working for a software house as a junior programmer. And 7 years later, I was the senior programmer. and it just seems, looking back, it seems like a magic carpet ride that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens throughout our lives. I think one of the biggest things I learnt, having got a feel for the principles, was looking back and seeing where it had had my back all the way through my life. So
Yes.
there have been periods of discomfort where I've been second guessing what decision to make and bits and pieces, and the ramifications of what, if I did make that decision, what that would mean. And then seeing that actually it was as soon as I'd made the choice, I was already feeling better from it. Yeah. Nobody else knew about it at that stage. It was just me. How weird's that? And it's, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense then. And which again gave me more confidence that there is something here in terms of being able to share that, show that using examples from my life. It's not that from this point forward it's different and I need to talking about from now. It's not like there's a sort of pivotal moment in that sense. It's, no, this has always been true. I've just not been aware of it. And by the way, here's some examples from before I saw it, and here's some examples from afterwards, and how I'm able to navigate that more comfortably potentially because I'm able to see the workings of it.
Yeah. And the phrase that you use that really hit home with me is, this has always been true.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's the core. That's the core of what it is that this understanding brings to not only my life, but when you're working with a client and you know that what you're talking about is always true. And that is a fundamental shift,
mm-hmm.
to not just to the way that you work, but to the way that you are. It still knocks me for six that 11 years later, I will still sit here and go, this is so, insert swear word, magical. I can't quite grasp, one, how I came across it. Well, now in hindsight, I can see again, it was another flow moment. another good decision to spot something in Michael's post online and go, I want more of that, whatever it is that he's written. And it didn't mention the 3 principles, but there was something in the tone, there was something in the wording that made me go, that is what I want. And ever since then, it's just been like, oh no, it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. And it's just, it still blows my brain apart.
Yeah, and that's not surprising, is it? Because, we only know what we know, and every day we're learning more. And,
Yes.
every day there's something that shows up that allows us to see things from a slightly different perspective.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating.
Yeah, it still niggles me though that it's sort of it's elusive. It is that will o' the wisp. It's sort of you think you've got it, and then you look in your hand, and it's not that there's nothing there, but and then that's the bit that niggles me. And you go into workshops and people talk about their insights, and it's fascinating listening to people's insights. And there was a time where I wanted their insights. Now I've had the insight to know that other people's insights are not what I want. It's my own.
Yeah.
It's rare, and I've heard a few people say it on a couple of your podcasts that it's, for me, it's very, very rare that I have an insight that I spot. It's just I notice a shift. I notice a shift in me and myself, in my life, in the way that I'm acting, the way that I'm reacting, the way that I'm behaving or not behaving, the way that I'm responding, the way that I think about things, the way that I don't think about things. It all shifts almost without me noticing. And then it's like, oh, in hindsight. So for me, it's 1,000 hindsights.
Yeah.
I spot.
I love that.
Yes. Rather than in the moment insight. Oh my, because when you go to a workshop, it can be people put their hand up and go, I've had an insight, and I'd sit there with this green, envious sort of face, going, oh, where's mine? Where's mine?
I can remember sitting in London with Aaron Turner and team, going, right, okay, so what is the criteria for an insight? I'm trying to what? Oh, it's just something that I haven't thought of before, or something that feels fresh. I could do that. That's fine. But when it's like, oh, right, sounds like this is something different.
Yes,
I got all caught up in it.
Yeah, it's the same as when I first listened to George Pransky talking at Supercoach. He came for a few of the weekends, and he would use this word intake. When you were the client, you got to do your intake. Well, that had a similar effect with me. I'll go, what the hell is intake? I don't do intake. And what have I got to learn to be able to do this intake? And you just came. I came to see that it's just bloody listening. It's just.
Hello, how are you?
That's it. And I thought it was something different that I had to learn and that I'd missed, and it was just like doing. No, Philip, listen to your. No, and again, I like the fact that it isn't just clients; it's life.
Yeah.
Listen, not just friends, but life. Listen to what life has to say. Listen differently. Instead of, I used to listen for something all the time, even with clients, especially when you come from an NLP background. You're listening for the language patterns, you're looking at the breathing rate, and you're looking at the blink rate and how they're sitting, and you're matching and mirroring them, and you've got all of that not listening going on, to then discover that you can just really listen and get everything that you need. It's magical. Again, it's that word. There you are. There's the title for this podcast. You can put the word magical in there.
I'll try and work it somehow. It's really interesting that just the curiosity in almost everything that I'm doing now is through the roof compared to what it was before, because it just makes more sense that way. Unfortunately, I got to spend the weekend in hospital, having done something to my knee, and I got to experience some poor old boys that were in real pain and had been stuck in hospital for some period of time, and the care and compassion that was being shown to them by the staff that they picked up on, and how quickly they picked up on the members of staff that weren't quite in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
And then they would chat about it amongst themselves, going, "We need to be wary of that one today." So, I hadn't noticed that, but they were so attuned to their environment, even though they, certainly one of them looked like he was completely out of it most of the time. They were so attuned to it and doing the best they could, as were all the staff. It was fascinating. And when one guy got brought in at 1 or 2 in the morning, just the care and the love that was being given by the staff to him when he was in a lot of pain, and they were trying to work out, they had some notes on who he was and what Anne had a handover, but they then still had to go and check to make sure that what they'd been told was correct, and actually, no, this needs to be redressed, and they just slowly got on with it and just treated him with huge care and compassion. And then weren't quite so caring and compassionate with each other in the corridor. Fascinating how we can turn it on and off when we think we're on show, and think that doesn't apply, or we'll be wasting it elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's.
But isn't that just wonderful though, that you had the capacity to spot that, and I don't know what I haven't got the words for what I want to say. Move on. That thought went.
No worries. So I'd be interested to hear what led you to write a book in the first place. When that kicked off, what was going through your mind?
Oh, well, that kicked off when I was working with Aaron and Leela Turner. I can't remember what the title of the program was. Professional practitioners, or other, and it's going to come across as one of those cliches, so forgive me, but I just had the thought, I want to write a book, right? I've never had that thought before, and it seemed weird for me, having never written anything, and never considered myself to be, to write anything that's longer than a paragraph would be a struggle. So how the hell am I going to write a book, and what is it going to be about? I just had that sense of wanting to write a book. And the very first thing that I did was I spoke with a client and asked if I could record a couple of sessions, and that was agreed upon. And I thought, I will transcribe, not exactly, and I'll build a book out of a few sessions with a client, and that was boring as hell. I mean, I just knew that was going to go nowhere, so I ditched the idea. And I think it was probably a couple of months later, I was sat in this very chair, and there was a blank piece of paper on the desk, and I just picked up a pen, and the 2 words came out of the pen, and the 2 words, and I don't think they made it into the versions of the book that you've got, because I took it out. Were the 2 words that I wrote was God's interlude. I don't know why I wrote that. Anybody that knows me would think, because I'm not religious, and before I came across this understanding, I would certainly never have considered myself spiritual or thinking in that way at all. So I wrote these 2 words, God's interlude, and then I wrote the last chapter of the book. It just, in handwriting, it's only 1 page, and this last page was all about God talking about being the implicate order of everything, and how we are of him, but we are not him, but we can know him. And this was so not me. After I read it back to myself, and it was one of those, again, a cliche. Oh my God, where did that come from? But it was from that 1 page, I got the whole book in my head. So then it was just a matter of, I remember going a week later to it was the following weekend that I was with Aaron and Leela, and I took the mic and I said, I'm writing a book and I'm 35,000 words in. I can remember saying that. And I was 35,000 words in because I'd already written it. It was just a sense of getting this down and it turned out that I wrote, I think, 140,000 words.
Wow.
Then trimmed it down to about 100,000. But I knew exactly what it was going to be. I knew who the characters were. I knew that it was going to be set in a theater, and I knew that it was someone who was going to be talking about their life in the past tense, explaining how they struggled, and typical sort of self-help, but really, the meet wise man. Wise man talks about life and they get better. I knew all of that was going to be in there. And then because of the word in the first page, the last page of the book, God's interlude, I thought, oh, right, all the characters can have an interlude. So the main protagonist can have an interlude, and the coach can have an interlude, and the protagonist's mum can have an interlude, and the dad can have an interlude, and I can have an interlude as the author. And I thought, oh, well, this is unusual. So I got excited about doing something that was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a fictional story that's a little bit different, that's a little bit quirky. That as well, I knew that I wasn't going to open the book. Am I going on a bit here, David?
That's cool.
I knew that when I was opening the book, the opening to the book, I knew that I wasn't going to do which is fairly common, that, this book is about the three principles. There is universal mind, there is universal thought, and there is universal, an explanation. I didn't want that. And that was already built in to the book that had come into my mind, that wasn't going to be there. And I think it's because I know for a fact that pre Michael Neal, pre Supercoach, pre 2012, had I gone to Waterstones and picked up a book and opened up the first 2 pages, and it says this book is about universal mind, I would have put it straight back on the shelf and gone, that is not for me. So I knew that I wanted to write a book that someone could pick up and not have that, but not in a bait and switch sort of, all right, we're gonna hide it. Not in that sense, but I just didn't want it to be like that. And I think I succeeded. I mean, overall, I don't think people particularly enjoy the book overall, but that's fine. It wasn't ever the sort of, oh, right, I've got to sit down and write a book because I want to make lots of sales so that then I can make some money and then I can live X sort of life. It was just like, no, I just want to write a book, and I've put it out there, and I don't promote it. It just has to grow its own legs. And if it never grows them for another 20, 30, 40 years, so be it. I don't really care. So it's out there. And so that's how it came about.
Well, I certainly enjoyed reading it, and thank you very much indeed for letting me know you'd done it, for one. It was certainly like a book like no other book I'd read in terms of the way you played with the structure of it, and I enjoyed that. It was fun to sort of go through it, not quite knowing which bit was coming next. It was great.
Yeah, it was a surprise to me as well, as it may have been to you, that's how it came about. It was just like, oh wow, that's weird, but interesting. We have, it's unanswerable, isn't it? How did that happen? It's unanswerable.
Yeah, it is unanswerable. But if I went to see, I think it was last year or the year before, Ian Rankin speak about a book that he'd just written, which was, in fact, it was 2 books, one of his own and one of a dear friend of his who died halfway through writing a book. And he was being interviewed about his writing style, Ian's writing style, and then chopping and changing into this other chap's. And Ian said, well, we write very, very differently. I have no plan at all. I just start writing. And as we go through, the whole plot develops. I don't know what the ending's going to be when I start. I don't even know who half the characters are going to be. So I said, okay, cool. I can live with that kind of writing. That sounds like my cup of tea. He said, whereas his friend was very structured and planned it all out, plotted it all out. So he said that made finishing his book easier because he knew his friend's writing style, and he also knew the plot line. So he could do justice to his friend's piece of work in a and this hasn't been finished in a Rankin ramble. It's just why I've taken it to where he wanted to go with it, to the best of my abilities. And I thought, okay, that's really interesting. But it just comes back to that business of this, planning is fine. You don't have to, you can sit down and go through the process of it. You don't have to stick with it. The process of going through it might be helpful, might change your mind about something. But equally, so is living in the moment and getting on with stuff as it presents itself in front of you, knowing that you're fully equipped to be able to do so.
Yeah. That's a great phrase, isn't it? Knowing that you're fully equipped to be able to do so. That's you were talking about insights that I've had. That's essentially one of them, that we have everything that we need already. I mean, I knew that before, but not truthfully.
Yeah.
It's one of the tenets of NLP. It's in NLP that there are presuppositions of NLP, and it's like, you yes, honestly, everybody has. I think everybody has everything that they need, or they can create it. So it's a slightly different take, and I love the fact that we don't have that second bit. It isn't that you can create it. It's no, you have it. You have it. That. We all have the same potential. We all have that same, I don't know what word to put in there, isness. We're all the same. We're all the bloody same.
Yeah, we're all made the same way. We're all, the operating system's identical.
Well, I think it's deeper than that. I think I came across, you just reminded me of a website that I came across. I know that time is ticking. Are we good? And I can tell you the name of the website because I've got it written down on my whiteboard. So I'm just going to tell you now. It's called onezoom.org. It's fascinating, and it's a tree of life, and it's like octopus legs, and they're all sort of like fractals. So you can zoom into a part of an octopus leg, and another leg will grow, and you can zoom into that and another one, and it's like the tree of life, and it's digital, so you can zoom in and zoom out, and it's absolutely fascinating because you can go in and look for the human being on this tree of life, and you can't find it because there's so much that's gone on before humans were here, but it's all connected. The plants go off on one leg, the amoebas and the bacteria go another way, and the insects, and I think there are 2 million species on this tree that you can zoom into. It's mind-blowing. But what tickled me, and this goes back to your point about us being connected, is you can zoom out and zoom out and zoom out, and then it comes back to all life. And that tickled me to death because I thought, oh, they're missing the bit that comes before all life. There should be another branch, another layer above that, which is, as we talk about, everything. The energy of all things, be it life or even not life. But I thought it hilarious that, they had all these beautiful things that came back to this one point and they just labeled it life. But they forgot the next bit. And that's why we're all connected, because that's where we all come from. We are all that. And that fascinates me. So you got to look at the website. It's amazing.
I will. It sounds like something the girls would like playing with as well.
Yeah, definitely. Challenge them to find human beings. You can search, so you can cheat. And it will zoom into one of these tentacles, and it's beautiful. Very, very creative.
And just more proof of the creative ability that we've all got. That's someone's project that flowed in that direction rather than into a book.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Or into a podcast.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, have you got any interesting projects you've got going on at the moment? So, is there anything that you want to share with people?
I can't even believe I'm saying this is just for fun. Okay. I got onto TikTok.
What are you up to on TikTok? I was not expecting that.
I could tell you weren't expecting. Well, I wanted to see what it was all about, because do you know what the thought came? This came from the fact that I was seeing that there were people on TikTok that have got millions followers, millions, and they're 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds. And I mean, I don't care about what they're doing, but that's happened. And then I think, hold on a minute, the three principles have been around for 50 years, and for 30 years of that, there's been the internet. And yet there are 20-year-olds that are in touch with more people than the three principles. And I thought, I want to go and see what TikTok is all about. So I looked at it for a few days and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have a dabble. So I've now got 6 followers. So yeah, well, you did ask what I'm up to.
Yeah, perfect.
It's kind of fun to try to talk about something like this, but to try and keep it to 1 minute, because really anything over a minute people swipe. Yep. So you got to get what you want to say in 1 minute, and it's kind of interesting. An interesting little project with it falls into, Michael Neal runs his Creating the Impossible, where you have no intention really. It's just a thought. What do I want to create? And this came to me, and I thought, oh, why not? I'm too old. I'm 60 next year. You shouldn't be on TikTok. I'll get away. And so that's been kind of fun.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, there you go. So you never know. The next time, in a year's time, when you invite me back to a podcast, I may have 23 million followers, all trying to figure out what the three principles mean in 1 minute.
No, fair dues. Oh, Phil, thank you so much for coming. It's been lovely to see you.
It's been lovely, hasn't it?
It has. It's not always nice to catch up. I'll have to try and do it in person again soon. And just thank you again for seeing something in me and introducing me to the principles in the first place. I am forever grateful for that.
Yeah, and thank you too for taking up the challenge. And then it's been beautiful for me to watch you from afar. You're in Edinburgh, I'm in London, but I see, I listen, I can see what's going on, and I see where you are, and I think it's wonderful. So congratulations, it's amazing.
Well, thank you very much. I've just been having fun playing with it, and I think that's the overriding part of it. Really is learn through play. Go back to primary school. It's the best way.
Yeah. Bless you. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed the conversation, feel free to subscribe and join me and my new guest next time. If you're interested in the work I'm doing, or you think I can be of service to you or your organisation, please email dave@simplicityofmind.co.uk. Remember, see if you can find time to slow down and reflect. Those simple ideas might be worth listening to. Take care, and I hope you can join me in a couple of weeks.